Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Dave Suffys from Newtec, and he's been to the South African office before, Dave, and he knows Martin pretty much well. Speaking to Dave, we talked about 4K. The next issue that we're talking about with Dave is on S2 extensions, because of the industry requiring these extensions. So Dave, you're telling me now that the existing customer wants something a little bit better than S2, is that correct?
Yeah, basically what S2 extensions are an extension to the DVB-S2 standard. So it's not a new standard, it's not called DVB-S3, it's not about pushing the market into fully replacing everything from modulators to IRDs to set-top boxes. No, it's about extending the current standard, so the current modcodes and modulation will remain. You have to see it like filling the gaps of DVB-S2. For example, you have modcodes, you have QPSK with 2/3, 3/4, 5 of 6, and so on. And now we're just adding some additional modcodes to give more granularity. And those additional modcodes, they have a higher efficiency, so that will enable, for example, in point-to-point links, contribution links, that will enable to pass higher rate video. For example, when the ultra-high definition comes and HEVC gives the compression, the rates will still be high, and that's where the DVB-S2 extensions come into play.
So is it software, or is it a hardware option?
On the modulator, at Newtec, and the modulator, it's software.
These are the new ones, right?
Yeah, this is the M6100, this is our broadcast modulator. This supports DVB-S2 and the DVB-S2 extensions.
These extensions, have they been officially approved in the industry now?
We are, together with the major players such as Comtech, Jacques and Sony, we are defining the standard as we speak. So there's a lot of cooperation between the major players just to make sure that we come up with the best of standards as possible, and they will be released, officially publicized by the end of the year.
And these extensions obviously will have to apply to the receiving guys. That you can buy a receiver with DVB-S2 extensions, which will allow you basically effectively higher ASI rates for better video.
Yeah, that's
all it is.
That's the bottom line. Now the migration towards DVB-S2 extensions is going to happen like DVB to DVB-S2 happens. In the beginning, it was only the let's say the point-to-point links where the broadcaster had control over both the uplink equipment and the downlink equipment. That was migrated to DVB-S2. The direct-to-home networks that go to set-top boxes, that took a while longer because the chipset manufacturers need to build new chips, and the set-top boxes need to be built, and the new networks need to be rolled out. Those will then be, for example, the new networks will be the first to adopt the DVB-S2 extensions, together with, of course, HEVC and ultra-high definition.
David, also what we're seeing that carrier ID, Newtec's pushing for carrier ID. Is that for every single broadcaster, so to make sure for interference issues, or
well, here again,
illegal transmitting?
Here again, it's not Newtec pushing for carrier ID. We are evangelizing carrier ID, but it's again cooperation between the major manufacturers. Carrier ID was cooperated between Newtec, Comtech as the main contributors, and some other industry players. And the goal of the carrier ID is to embed identifier into the carrier, with the result that teleport operators and satellite operators can easily identify a carrier.
So that if someone's illegal transmitting, you know exactly where it's coming from.
Illegal or wrongfully could be that, for example, let's take a typical case where you drive somewhere with the SNG and you do pointing, and accidentally you think you're well pointed, you're on the wrong satellite. Well, the satellite operator can then easily identify that modulator and give the guy a call.
Obviously, it has to be modulated, eh? It can't be clean carrier. Will those packets of data be transmitted on top of the clean carrier?
It's, as far as I know, it's only under modulated carrier.
Okay. Because you can still have people transmitting illegally on clean carrier.
Absolutely. I mean, there will always be ways to disturb satellite transmission. I mean, bring up a clean carrier or bring up an analog signal or a sweeper. That you cannot avoid. But studies have shown that, like, 80 to 85, 90% almost of the interference are unintentional. They're just human error, and then it's
mispointing, bad pointing, and then easy to ID the person and say, hey,
then, yeah,
please switch off your carrier.
yeah, absolutely.
These carrier IDs, do you physically have to put in your own parameters like Dave Suffys, or is it done if you buy this modulator? It's determined by the manufacturer to.
Yes. There's the idea behind it is every equipment has a MAC address, which is unique in the world.
Correct.
And that MAC address is stored in a database that is maintained by an organization. That's the same organization that tracks the satellite, the orbital debris, for example.
Yes.
That's a centralized organization, and if a satellite operator identifies a carrier ID MAC, he will consult that database, and then he will get the data. It's been sold to this one, and there's additional data.
Newtec modulator, this is the story.
Yeah.
This operator's got it.
Yes. Another thing, there's optional fields in the carrier ID where you can, for example, put latitudes, longitudes, a telephone number. So there's additional information, but that's not.
It's not designed to trap people.
No, not at all. It's to help. It's to help avoid unintentional interference.
And how much packets does it take from a? They don't interfere with the stream in any way,
Well,
do they?
it's a spread spectrum carrier under the carrier.
Okay.
And it's 35 dB below, so
it doesn't
it's
interfere?
Well, it gives a slight degradation, but it's 0.0 something
Okay,
dB, so
okay.
it's almost unnoticeable.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Dave. Thank you very much
Yeah,
for clearing
no
these
problem.
issues.
Anytime.